Wakeji Kamore, and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. Welcome to your daily dose of the Bible summary. If you're here for the very first time and you're wondering what this video is about, we are currently going through the book of Judges, and we are doing that chapter by chapter, and today we are still in chapter 6. Please stick to the end of the video because that is where the juicy lessons from the chapter are at. And kindly subscribe, kindly like, share it with someone else, invite someone else, and let us just, to jai hapa. And if you have coming here for the, second time, fifth time, if you've been here since the very beginning, karibu sana, please stick to the end so that you all can learn from the Word of God. We all can learn from the Word of God. So today we are going to be covering Judges chapter 6, which I said is very rich in lessons. So we are going to be covering it in bits. So today we are going to do the second part, which is verse 17 to 32. Yesterday we read from verse 1 to verse 16. So today we are going to be reading from verse 17 to verse 32, and I'm still going to be using the NLT version. So today I'm going to be doing it the way I usually do it, where I read and then I share the lessons at the back, because at the end of the video, because I realized sharing the lessons in between is so confusing. Sometimes I lose, where are we on this chapter? So please stay on it, stay keen on what it is that I'm reading, so that then when I'm sharing the lessons, you're not like, what is she talking about? All right, let's do this. Verse 17, it says, Gideon replied, "If you're truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really the Lord speaking to me. Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you." He answered, this is the angel answering, "I will stay here until you return." Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat with a basket, and with a basket and of flour he baked some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel who was under the great tree. The angel of God said to him, "Place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock and pour the broth over it." And Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock, consumed all that he had brought, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was actually the angel of the Lord, he cried out, "Oh, sovereign Lord, I am doomed. I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." And then the Lord replied, "It is all right. Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it Yahweh Shalom, which means the Lord is peace. The altar remained in Ophrah in the land of the clan of Abiezer to this day. That night, the Lord said to Gideon, "Sasa, it is time for task. Okay, you've asked whether it is me. I've shown you it is me. Now it is time for me to give you a task." This is God giving Gideon a task. "Take the second bull from your father's herd, one that is 7 years old. Pull down your father's altar to Baal." Like, this guy, Gideon, had a father by the name Joash. Joash had his own altar to an idol god in their own backyard and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. "Then build an altar to the Lord your God here at the hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using the fuel of the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had commanded. But he did it at night. He did it what? At night. Why? Because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town. So Gideon was like, okay, I'm going to obey, but I'm going to do it at night because I'm scared, which is great. Early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down and the Asherah pole besides it had been cut down. In their place, a new altar had been built, and on it were remains of a bull that had been sacrificed. The Lord said, the people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, the son of Joash, the son of the owner of the altars. He said, "Bring out your son." The men of the town demanded of Joash, "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and for cutting down the Asherah pole." As in, I'm like, you guys, you're even defending an idol god. The height, the audacity. Where? Anyway, verse 31, it says, "But Joash shouted. But Joash shouted." They shouldn't put she together. She together. Not good for Kikuyu. But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him, "Why are you defending Baal? Why will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be cut to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." So now Joash, who was the owner of the Baal altar that was destroyed, is here telling people, why are you defending Baal? So let him defend himself if he's really a god. So from then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, which means let Baal defend himself, because he broke down Baal's altar. And I'm going to stop there today. That's verse 32. So we've seen Gideon asking God to prove that he was the one, he was truly asking the angel to prove that he was truly the angel of the Lord. He's done that. Gideon is given a task to go and destroy the altar that was in their backyard, because it was their father's altar, and to raise another altar and to make a sacrifice on it. We see that the guys have figured out that that altar had been destroyed, and now they want Joash to bring out Gideon so they can kill him. But then Joash is like, no, let Baal defend himself. So what do we learn from these verses? And here are the three main lessons that I picked from these verses. First, start from your own backyard. Verse 25, it says, "The angel of the Lord commanded Gideon to go and pull down his father's altar to Baal." Baal was an idol god. "And cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it." This family had their own altar for an idol god in their own backyard. So God needs us to save our own families before we can save or even rebuke the world. God needs us to rebuke our own families before we can rebuke the world. He needs us to exercise courage in our families, at school, at our workplaces, before we can go and exercise and show that courage to the whole world. Let me tell you, if you think that doing this small task is easier than doing it in the world, I even think doing it in the world is easier than actually rebuking or, tearing down altars in your own family. That is actually real work, because these people know you the most. The people you work with, the people you school with know you the most. They knew Gideon as the one. See, you are the guy who was there threshing wheat yesterday. Who got the wine press? Where you're even hiding? And now you're here to tell us what? Sometimes it is extremely hard to exercise courage in the natural spaces that God has given you. But unfortunately for you and for me, God requires us to do it. God requires us to exercise courage, to exercise his rebuking people, to exercise bringing down altars in our own backyards before we can actually go and do it out there. The second thing I learned is do it afraid, but do it anyway. This is verse 27. It says, "So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had commanded him to do. But he did it at night because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town." There are so many things that I have done afraid and scared and shaking like a leaf. Yani, there are so many things I have done when I was scared and I was very unsure of myself, and I just was like, you know what? God has asked me to do this. I'm just going to do it, scared as I am, shaking as a leaf as I am. Sometimes I'm asked to go and preach somewhere, like even at the church I serve at collective worship. Sometimes even just before I get to the front, I am shaking like a leaf. I am afraid. But because God has asked me to do it, I do it. Sometimes I share my own personal stories and I'm just like, what? I'm not sure I want to share this story. It is mine. It's my story. I don't want to share it. But I know that someone else is going to be encouraged by that story. So I share it and I do it scared and shaking like a leaf. So yes, God is asking you to do stuff. But imagine you don't have to do it like all power puffed. You can do it even if you're scared. Just do it scared. Just do it. Just do what God has asked you to do. The third thing that I learned from these verses that we've read is that courage is contagious. Let me read verse 31. It says, "But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him and says, 'Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal is truly a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke his altar.'" The beauty about doing things afraid and doing stuff afraid is that you're the only one who knows that you're afraid. The people who see you do those things think you're courageous. The people who see me do stuff, the people who see me out there doing these businesses that I do, and they're just like, "Man, you're courageous." Little do they know is that I do it scared. I am, like, inside me, I am scared. But they don't see it because they only see me being courageous. There are things that you do in your life that someone out there is looking at you and saying, "Oh my goodness, that girl is courageous. Oh my goodness, that guy, he's so courageous." And they don't know that inside you, you're doing it scared. But that courage that you show is contagious because it allows someone else to say, "Hey, if Wakeji can do that, I can do that. If that girl can do that, I can do that. If that guy can do that, I can also do that. If that guy can run for MP and MCA, even me, I can do it. Why can't I not do it?" The fact that you're doing it afraid will not be seen by the people who will see it. They will see courage. And then that courage that you show, that they see, will allow them to also step in their places of courage, will allow them to also do the things that God has called them to do. In this case, Gideon did something extremely scared. But immediately the dad was like, my son has stepped into courage. He's courageous. Even me, I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to be like, no, you guys can't kill my son. If you want to plead for Baal, let him plead for himself. And if anybody wants to plead for him, he will be cut into pieces. This is the guy who owned those altars. He should have been even more mad than the villagers were. But courage is contagious. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing it scared. The people who see you doing it will be given permission to step into their spaces of courage. So, 3 things that we have learned. Start from your backyard. Do it, even if you're going to do it scared. And number 3, that courage is contagious. I pray that the Lord gives us courage. Courage to start from our own spaces, from our own backyards. Courage to do it, even if we are doing it afraid. And courage to spread to others. This is your girl Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.